Welcome to the Terry Stanley channel. Today, I would like to introduce you to the story, I Would, But My Mom Said No. Author, Takara Phoenix. Read by, Terry Stanley. I would, but my mom said no. Life at the Lotus Residence. /1999 / Percy was 6 years old and confused. He was also upset and afraid. And hurt. He held his cheek, slightly swollen. He had told his mommy that it had happened at school. Not a rare thing. Percy always got into trouble. Because he was a bad child. That's what Gabe had said when he had hit Percy. And that Percy better keep his mouth shut, or Gabe would hurt Percy's mommy. So Percy said it had happened at school. He sniffed a little. He didn't want to live here. The apartment was small and dirty and not his. It was Gabe's. But mommy had married him, so now Percy and his mom had to move in with the man. Percy didn't understand why his mom had married the man. He was scary and mean and smelt nasty. Other moms had husbands, dads who were proud of their kids and kissed their wives like they did in the sappy movies he watched with his mom. Why didn't his mom get a nice man? Here. Percy blinked slowly and looked up as a small hand was holding a piece of candy out at him. In front of him stood a boy, younger than him, with wild, dark curls. He had the largest dark eyes as he looked at Percy. The boy was hugging a stuffed Pegasus from Hercules. "Thank you," said Percy in a small voice, because Mom raised him proper. "You look sad," said the other boy. "Candy makes it better. I'm Nico." "I'm Percy," replied Percy, taking the candy and unwrapping it. "Wanna play?" asked Nico and sat down in front of Percy. He got a bunch of figures out of his pockets. Megara, Hercules, the Hydra, Pegasus, Phil, Hades. Percy's eyes widened in awe. The boy had all the figures from the Happy Meal 2 years ago. Percy had gotten only Pegasus and he was Percy's treasure. Nico looked at him and smiled as he thrust Megara at him, grabbing Hercules for himself. "Nico? Bambino. Nicolo," called a heavily accented voice out. Percy and Nico looked up and Percy made a little sound. A really pretty woman came walking out of the apartment right down the hall. She had really long flowing curls swaying behind her, with the same skin tone and dark eyes like Nico. She was scowling at him. "I told you not to go close to that apartment," chided the woman. "Scusa, mama," mumbled Nico. "But I found a friend." The woman's face softened as she knelt down in front of them and looked at Percy. "Hello, Bambino, where do you come from? Where is your mama?" "Mommy's at work," replied Percy obediently. "Then why are you out here on your own?" wanted the woman to know, concern clear in her eyes. "Because I was playing too loud," hummed Percy, biting his lips. "What apartment do you live in, Tesorino?" asked Nico's mother worried. Percy quietly pointed at the door behind him. The apartment she had told her son to stay away from. The concern turned into determination as she stood up and glared fiercely at the door. "You and your mama live there? With Gabriel?" asked the woman. "You who?" whispered Percy. "Mom married him, so we had to move in with him." She grimaced before she leaned down to pick up her son. "I am Maria. Why don't you come and stay with us until your mama comes home from work?" "I'm not supposed to go with strangers," pointed Percy out. "Well, see, we're just down the hall. And I'm sure your mama wouldn't want you to sit out on the floor until she gets home, see? I will write her a letter, okay?" offered Maria with a smile. Percy looked at Nico, who was cradling his toys close to his chest and looking at Percy excitedly. Nodding briefly, Percy got up to follow the nice lady. This meant he could get away from Gabe a little longer. Their apartment was way prettier than Gabe's. It was all in warm colors, browns and reds and oranges. A girl sat on the couch, looking like Percy's age. She looked just like Nico. "Mama, did you find a stray?" asked the girl curiously when she spotted Percy. "Your brother did," chuckled Maria. "Percy, that's my daughter Bianca. Now, why don't you kids play some, while I write your mama a note and put it on your door, so she doesn't worry?" Percy nodded and followed Nico over to the couch to sit down on the ground. Nico put all the toys out again and looked eagerly at Percy. Percy was still holding the Megara figure. For the next 2 hours did the two boys reenact the entire whole movie, Nico giggling whenever Percy didn't get a line right like he knew the entire whole movie by heart. Only then did someone knock at the door. Maria came to get Percy. It kinda put Percy down, because he could have just kept playing with Nico. Nico was fun and nice. He hadn't expected to make a friend at this place. "I am so sorry," apologized Sally flustered. "I really don't know what." "It's all right, darling," assured Maria with a smile. The boys got along great. Maybe they could play more often? Percy is always welcome here. "Thank you," nodded Sally, grabbing Percy's hand. "Come, it's time to go home." "Bye, Nico," called Percy out. "Bye," called Nico back, smiling brightly. "Come play again." Maria sighed and sipped her wine. She was watching her children, through the bar between kitchen and living room. Bianca and Nico were sitting on the couch, watching Hercules together with Thalia and Jason. Considering the four had grown up together from the earliest age, they had become best friends by now. Maria blinked when someone refilled her glass. "What's on your mind, girl?" asked Esperanza from down the hall. Esperanza Valdez was essentially Maria's best friend. She had a car shop just down the street. And while Maria was friends with many of the tenants of the Lotus residence, Beryl Grace and her husband Tristan McLean, Melly Hedge, Howard Claymore, Esperanza had become her closest friend. Esperanza raised both her eyebrows at Maria. "There's a new tenant at the Lotus," stated Maria, taking another sip of her wine. "Really? I don't remember any empty apartments," grunted Esperanza, confused before her eyes widened. "Oh God, don't tell me someone died. It's not Mr. Quintus, is it? I know he's old." "No, Mr. Quintus is all right," chuckled Maria and shook her head before sobering up a little. "No, apparently Gabriel Ugliano got married. And his wife comes with a child. What kind of woman would marry that man?" asked Esperanza and made a face. "I'm not sure," hummed Maria with a frown. "But she doesn't seem like a bad woman. And her son is absolutely endearing. I want to keep an eye on them. Will you help me? Sue, you're investigating together," grinned Esperanza and nudged Maria. A knocking at the door interrupted them. For a moment, Maria frowned confused. Beryl and Tristan had asked her to watch Thalia and Jason at least until 8, because the couple wanted to go on a proper date again. The two were actors, small off-Broadway productions, though Beryl had done a moderately famous soap opera in the late 80s. They had met when being co-stars in the same production. All really cheesy, romantic and adorable. Beryl had gone through a phase of hard alcoholism and some drug problems, and Tristan had helped her through it all. "Back so soon? Don't tell me Tristan forgot to get a reservation again," grunted Esperanza, amused. "I swear, he's gonna spend the week on the couch if he made Beryl dress up for nothing." Maria laughed and went to open the door. She blinked curiously as she saw who it actually was. "Sally," exclaimed Maria, pleased. "Oh, come on in. I would love to introduce you to Esperanza." Sally opened her mouth to protest, but Maria had already pulled her along and into the kitchen. Esperanza smiled at the brunette woman, before her attention was caught by the utterly adorable little boy at Sally's hand. Large, green eyes and messy black hair. "Hello, mijo. Aren't you the cutest little thing?" cooed Esperanza and knelt down. Called Nico and Jason out from the living room. Esperanza and Maria laughed at that. Though Percy, as soon as he heard Nico's voice, tore away from his mom and ran to the living room. He paused when he saw the other two children. "Who's that?" asked Percy tentatively. "That's my Jason," hummed Nico. "And that's Jason's sister Thalia." "You're Jason?" frowned Percy, looking at the small blonde clinging onto Nico. "Yes. Because my stupid little brother always clings onto Nico," huffed Thalia. Percy's frown deepened. He never really had friends before. He was kind of an outcast. So he didn't really know how to behave. If Nico already had a Jason, did he need a Percy? Question mark. Nico frowned up at Percy and grabbed his hand to pull him to sit down next to him. Jason peeked past Nico. "Hello," piped the little blonde up. "Hello," replied Percy with a small smile. "Can I watch with you?" "If you all shush now," exclaimed Bianca annoyed. "This is the best part. /2000 /. We have to do something," exclaimed Maria outraged. "I agree with you, Maria, but what?" asked Tristan with a tired look on his face. By now, Maria had dragged her friends into her worries, and Esperanza, Tristan and Beryl were as convinced as Maria that Gabe was abusing both Percy and Sally. And they all would not stand for it. Sally was a good and kind woman and Percy was a precious child. Thalia and Bianca both went to the same class as Percy now, even though Percy was closer to their younger brothers than to the girls themselves. Beryl was pacing the D'Angelo kitchen, glaring. "It's a habit," stated Beryl firmly. "Like drugs. Like alcohol. A bad habit, and she knows it's bad for her, but she doesn't know how to break it. So we help her break it," stated Esperanza with a shrug. "Right? For one, we support her," offered Tristan. "Maybe she is stuck with this man because she sees no other way out. No other way for her and her son. So we help her with Percy, with everything." "Okay. It's a start," nodded Maria pleased. "And since Bianca and Thalia go to the same class as Percy, we could very well pick him up, or drive him to school? And we could carefully start dropping hints. Lawyers, organizations that help women in abusive relationships, such things," added Beryl thoughtfully. "Good. Very good," nodded Maria pleased. "I really appreciate this," smiled Sally as she looked around. Beryl, Maria and Esperanza had asked her out to go on a shopping trip together. Generally, the other tenants at the Lotus residence were truly nice. Being all alone with Percy, a young mother, she had always been very overwhelmed. Trying to do her best, but with her job and the medical debt from her uncle, she was just so very in over her head. "Oh, girl, Beryl and I just need you as backup," grinned Esperanza mischievously. "What for?" asked Sally confused, blinking slowly. "See, this one has been buying so many useless gems and crystals that even my cabinet is full," sighed Beryl. "Because she's being a very useless lesbian." Maria grumbled and flushed slightly, while Sally blinked. "Oh, so you have a crush?" "Yep," confirmed Esperanza. "There's this shop owner. Little authentic voodoo shop that does card readings and stuff too. Maria stumbled in here by accident during a rainy day and she's been a bumbling mess since then. It's pathetic, really." Maria's flush darkened even more. Sally laughed at that, though then she paused for a long moment. "Wait. You have 2 children. That. Pardon me if this is too personal a question, but I was raised a good Catholic girl. Being a lesbian was not an option for me," clarified Maria with a sigh. "I got married to a good man and we had 2 children. He moved us here, to New York. But then he died during an accident and here, in the land of the free, far away from my family, I finally had the chance to be true to myself." "Ah," nodded Sally in understanding as they reached the small shop. "Welcome to Levo, Maria," exclaimed the lady behind the counter. She was a dark-skinned beauty with wild, tight curls and golden eyes. She smiled at Maria, not even seeming to notice Sally, Beryl, and Esperanza. Beryl laughed and pulled the other 2 women aside, leaving Maria alone to talk to the shop owner. "Marie Levesque is new in the neighborhood, she only opened her shop a year ago," stated Beryl. "Marie? Maria and Marie?" asked Sally with laughter in her voice. "It's a bit odd, but what can you do?" chuckled Esperanza and shook her head. "Love. It happens. It does. And when it does, it hits you like a brick wall," sighed Beryl softly. "When Try and I first got together, I thought it was projecting the feelings that our characters had on stage. But it was more. So much more. And now we have Thalia and Jason and life couldn't be better. What about you? Asked Esperanza curiously. What's Percy's origin story? Percy's origin story is that his mother was a naive teenager who trusted the pretty words of an older man and had a short-lived romance, only to then realize the man had been married all along, sighed Sally, taking a blue crystal from the shelf. This is pretty. Percy will like it. And how did you and Gabe? Drawled Beryl carefully. Sally flinched away on instinct, just a little. She turned away from them, prompting Beryl and Esperanza to exchange a meaningful look. Tentatively, Esperanza rested a hand on Sally's shoulder. He ain't a good man, Sally, whispered Esperanza gently. And whatever reasons you think you have to stay with him, they're not enough. They're not worth it. You think we haven't noticed the bruises on you? The bruises on Percy? Whatever it is, we're here for you. We'll help you. She had a hand resting on her own bulged stomach. A one-night stand that had ended unexpectedly. Beryl rested her hand on top of her friend's. They helped each other, supported each other. Sally had already expressed that she would help Esperanza in any way she could, knowing what it was like to be a single mother. That they'd also offer the same to her was heartwarming for Sally. Percy, whispered Nico. Percy. Come. I would, but my mom said no, frowned Percy upset. Why? Wanted Nico to know with a pout. I dunno. Mom says she's meeting a really important man and I have to talk to him too. Then I'll stay and wait with you, declared Nico and entered. He had come down the fire escape, where he had been visiting the janitor. Nico spent a lot of time with Mr. Bob. He was fun and he had a kitten. Small Bob meowed where he was curled up in Nico's hood. It would have been cool if Percy had come with Nico to play with Small Bob. Do you know new stories? Asked Percy eagerly when Nico sat down next to him. Yoo-hoo, nodded Nico excitedly. I looked your story up. Nico was really super into old stories, like Hercules. It was his favorite movie and he was super interested in other stories like it. When Sally had told them that Percy was in fact named after a hero just like Hercules, Nico got excited and wanted to look it up. Biting his lip, Percy huddled close to listen to the story Nico wanted to tell him. Percy liked Nico, because Nico was really clever. Percy? Oh, there you are. Nico? Asked Sally surprised. When did you? Oh, the fire escape. Yep, confirmed Nico with a proud smile. Off you go back home. Percy and I have to talk to someone, chuckled Sally. Nico pouted a little but nodded and left together with Small Bob, while Sally took Percy by the hand and brought him to meet the lawyer that Tristan had introduced her to. Her new friends, they tried to help her, told her that things could be better, that they would be there for her. /2001 Nico. Do you wanna come to the playground with me? Asked Percy excitedly. I would, but my mom said no, pouted Nico. Why? Asked Percy confused. Mom is still in bed because having the baby was really super exhausting and Mama had to go to work. So Bea and I have to stay home, unless another responsible adult comes along. Percy frowned and nodded. So instead of going to the playground, he walked right past Nico into the D'Angelo Levesque apartment. A year ago, Maria started dating Marie. Percy had never seen that. Moms were with dads. He had never known someone with two moms. But by now Marie was living with them and she had just last week given birth to Nico's new baby sister. It's okay. Playground is boring anyways, hummed Percy. Since when? Huffed Nico in disbelief. Since you said you can't come to, shrugged Percy and tilted his head. Nico bit his lips and grinned. He had ever only had one real friend in Jason, who followed him around like a duckling. But now he also had Percy and Percy was really, really cool. You can show me your new sister? Suggested Percy curiously. She's boring, pointed Nico out as he led the way to the nursery. She only sleeps, screams, babbles and giggles. Mama and Mom say that it'll be a while before she does anything interesting and that I need to be patient. I hope she does something interesting soon. What's her name? Asked Percy in awe as they reached the baby bed. Hazel, replied Nico. But I dunno how they made her. Moms and dads make babies together, so I dunno how two moms can make one. They just laugh and say they had help. Like baking a cake and borrowing eggs from the neighbor. But Hazel's not a cake. She's a baby. Adults are weird, shrugged Percy as he poked a finger through the bars. Hello. I'm Percy. That's true, agreed Nico. Wanna watch The Little Mermaid? Percy perked up at that. This was his favorite movie, and because it was about King Triton, Nico had a mild interest in it too. He had started reading up on all the ocean myths, like Triton and Poseidon and stuff for Percy. Grinning, Percy and Nico left the nursery together. /2002 /. So, what's the deal? Asked Percy curiously where he was sprawled out on Nico's floor. You gonna keep Mrs. O'Leary? I know you totally adore her. I would, started Nico with a sigh. But my mom said no. Hazel's still way too tiny and she doesn't trust Mrs. O'Leary around the baby because it's so tiny. Mr. Quintus had passed away and now the residents of Lotus were trying to figure out what to do with his very large giant puppy. Frowning, Percy sat up and turned to look at Jason next. Mom's allergic to dogs, shrugged Jason. I've been asking for a puppy for years. Thalia just says that we already have one and then she would just stare at me super intensely. Percy giggled at that. You are a puppy. You still follow Nico around like a lost puppy. The 7-year-old blonde stuck his tongue out at the older boy. I'm not. Too, drawled Nico with a grin. So, Percy. What about you? I mean, I could try to convince Mom, mused Percy thoughtfully. Now that Gabe's gone, we have more room in the apartment. And not so many empty glass bottles, so it won't be dangerous for the puppy. And Mom says that I need more exercise. With a puppy, I'd go out a lot. Okay. Let's go and tell Sally, nodded Nico determined, grabbing Percy's hand. Jason hummed curiously as he got up and trailed after them. Just across the hall, they found Sally Jackson in her apartment. It was nice. Jason liked it now. It used to smell icky, like the stuff Dad said Mom couldn't drink. It used to be dark and kinda creepy. But Mom and Dad and Esperanza and Marie had helped Sally renovate and now it was really pretty. With blue, nice wallpaper and curtains. Percy's favorite color was blue, Jason knew that. Ah, sweetie. And you brought the boys, noted Sally with a smile. Want a muffin, kids? Yes, exclaimed Jason excitedly. Sally Jackson made the best blueberry muffins. While Jason happily munched away on his muffin, Nico and Percy straightened up really seriously and looked at Sally. Sally smiled at that. Mom. I can be really responsible, stated Percy, trying to look all grown up. You say I need to run a lot and stuff. That I need a lot of exercise. If I had a puppy, I would get lots of exercise. I promise I'd feed her and cuddle her and go on runs with her. This is about Mrs. O'Leary, nodded Sally amused. Beryl and Maria already warned me. Mom, please, started Percy, using the famous begging kitten eyes of his. And, continued Sally, shushing her son. I thought about it. Mrs. O'Leary isn't a puppy. She is a well-trained dog. I would say no to a puppy, because I don't have the time to go and train one with you. But she's a lovely lady and she really needs a home. So. Okay. Okay? Echoed all three boys with large, excited eyes. Yes. They high-fived in a circle, all grinning broadly. Sally all the while shook her head fondly. /2005 / 12-year-old Percy frowned where he was sprawled out on the bed in his prison. He startled when someone knocked on his window. Turning his head, Percy saw Nico stand outside the window. Getting up, Percy opened the window and pressed a finger to Nico's mouth. Or the ward will hear you, whispered Percy. Nico glowered. So you won't come to the rooftop with me? I would, mumbled Percy. But I'm grounded for the pranks at school. That's not fair, frowned Nico, annoyed, and flopped down on Percy's bed. I know, ow, sighed Percy and flopped down next to Nico. Both stared up at the ceiling. It took Mrs. O'Leary exactly 2 minutes before she realized both humans were on the bed, so she crawled up to sprawl out on top of both boys, making them giggle. Nico and Percy started patting the large black dog as they laid together. They tended to get into trouble, both of them. Well, Percy more so. And thanks to Percy, also Nico, because Nico could never say no to Percy. And whenever Percy got grounded, Nico had to sneak in through the window. Which was okay, because Nico still loved hanging out with Bob the janitor, and he allowed Nico to go through the apartment and then down the fire escape to Percy's bedroom. "How are you doing?" asked Nico softly, grabbing Percy's hand. Normally, Percy only acted out a lot when he had nightmares again about Gabe. The bad man had hurt Percy a lot in the time that he had lived with them. Sometimes, when something reminded Percy of Gabe, sometimes something as silly as seeing Gabe's favorite brand of beer on a shelf at the grocery store, Percy would act out. Sighing softly, Percy curled against Nico. "I had a bad dream of the day he threw the bottle at me," mumbled Percy. He was rubbing the scar on his forearm from where a shard of glass had dug in deep. Nico frowned and hugged his best friend really close. He didn't understand why Percy wouldn't just tell Sally why he acted out and made trouble, but Percy didn't want to worry his mum. It'd only make her feel guilty, he said. Thankfully, Percy had really understanding teachers. Well, most of them. Mrs. Dots didn't like Percy, but Mr. Brunner and Mr. Bloffies were both really fond of Percy. /2006 Percy giggled as he watched his mom fuss, nudging Nico. Nico grinned broadly too. Sally has already tried on 6 different dresses and kept mumbling that it wasn't a good idea. You look pretty, called Percy out reassuringly. So, we gonna order pizza and marathon Hercules, right? Asked Nico excitedly. I would, started Percy. No, interrupted Sally sternly from the other room. But you heard her, huffed Percy with a pout. Esperanza is gonna babysit. I'm too old for a babysitter. I'm 13. Practically an adult already. Then see it as you babysitting for her, offered Sally. You know Leo adores you. Percy perked up at that, while Nico deflated. Leo was a year older than Hazel, and so Leo was over at their apartment all the time. He was tiny and boring. Hazel, who was by now already 5, was a precious little princess and Nico adored her. Leo was like an overexcited puppy who kept following Hazel around all the time. Kind of like how Jason used to follow him. While I'm out with Paul, started Sally, blushing. Mr. Blowfish, corrected Percy mischievously. Sally glared pointedly at her son. Paul. You two will stay with Esperanza and behave. Why me? Asked Nico with a frown. I can just go home. Nico, sweetie, it's practically impossible to keep you two apart, snorted Sally. Now, get your stuff, Percy. I'm dropping you off and then I really have to go. Percy sighed and grabbed the Sinbad Legend of the Seven Seas DVD before following his mum out. Moments later and they were knocking at the door opposite theirs. There was excited squealing and then the door was opened by a very wide-eyed 5-year-old. Percy, yelped Leo and just fell forward into Percy's arms. Leo, grinned Percy and wrapped his arms around him. Nico pouted. Okay, so maybe it annoyed him a bit that Leo always followed Percy around too. Rolling his eyes, Nico walked past them and over to where Esperanza was sitting on the couch. Have fun on your date, Sally, called Esperanza out with a wink. Percy all the while carried Leo inside and over to the couch so the 3 boys could all join her. Nico was pleased that Percy had picked a mythological movie. It was the golden trinity of movies for them, Hercules, even though by now Nico was really annoyed by how much myth they did wrong, but he really loved Hades, Sinbad and the Little Mermaid. /2007 Percy called Nico out as he walked into the apartment through Percy's room. "Nico, you do know that we actually have a front door, right?" asked Paul, exasperated. "You'll get used to that, honey," assured Sally and kissed his cheek. "Hello, Mr. and Mrs. Jackson. Where's Percy?" asked Nico, confused. "I'm not," started Paul with a frown. "I didn't take Sally's last name. Sweetie, Nico is just messing with you. He never calls me Mrs. Jackson," chuckled Sally. "And Percy is in the bathroom, taking a shower before dinner. If he doesn't hurry, we eat without him." I'm done," exclaimed Percy suddenly from the bathroom. Nico stared, eyebrows raised high. This wasn't new. Percy only with a towel around his waist wasn't new. The two of them had even seen each other naked plenty of time, skinny dipping with Jason. But lately, it was weird. Nico didn't really know why, but he knew it was weird. Something was wrong with him. Something that made him feel all awkward and odd when he looked at Percy these days. Like, Percy looked extra pretty? Like Percy was different than everyone else? Really? "I swear, you hear food and you come running," joked Nico and shook his head. "Yes. I'm a simple man," huffed Percy and stuck his tongue out. "Hey, Neeks. Do not call me that," glared Nico and shoved Percy. "What do you want, not Neeks?" asked Percy teasingly, dodging Nico. "There's a new movie out, called Ratatouille. I thought we could go together?" asked Nico. "I would," started Percy with a frown, "but your mom said," sighed Nico, frustrated. "No," supplied Sally, amused, knowing her boys. "Why not? Is he grounded again?" asked Nico, gesturing at Percy. "No," laughed Sally and shook her head. "But we have family plans." Nico glowered at that, until Sally patted him on the shoulder. "How about you boys go and see the movie tomorrow?" "I guess," sighed Nico with a pout. "Have fun." With that, Nico sulked out of the apartment and made his way back to his own home. Maria and Marie looked up briefly when Nico entered, though when they noted the lack of Percy, they returned their attention to the puzzle they were laying. "Percy didn't have time for you?" asked Marie, amused. "No. They're doing family stuff," huffed Nico. "Iko," exclaimed his little sister and came waddling out of her room. "Guess now you got family stuff too," supplied Maria mischievously. Nico grinned as he picked up Hazel and carried her back to her room to play with her. He did adore his little sister. It was just irritating when Percy didn't have time for him. /2009 High school was weird. Nico had never really been a social kid, but somehow, at 14 he was suddenly cool. Whatever that meant. It might have something to do with him having friends 2 years older than him. Thalia was 17 and captain of the archery club. Bianca was also in archery club. 16-year-old Percy was captain of the swim team. Jason, while not being the quarterback, was at least the halfback of the football team. So, Nico kind of hung out with the jocks, while also being the loner punk kid. However, that fit together. But somehow, that made him dark and mysterious, or something. Girls had been asking him out. He went on dates before, with a girl named Raina who he got along with really well. That was how Nico came to realize that he was most definitely 100% gay. But Raina was awesome, she took it well and they actually became friends. Now she was one of his best friends and, together with Jason, the first ones he had told about being gay. Somehow, that thought hurt and confused him. That it hadn't been Percy. That the first person he told hadn't been Percy, but Nico realized that the odd feeling, the feeling like something about Percy was different and weird, was because Nico was in love with Percy. It had gotten way worse now in high school. Now that Nico came to every single swim tournament and sometimes even sat in during training. Watching Percy, half naked and wet, flexing his slowly defining muscles. That was why seeing Percy shirtless was now different, because he felt different about Percy. Looking at the other members of the swim team proved it. Sure, Nico also appreciated how hot Mike was, for example, but with Percy, it was more than just physical attraction. So, you still haven't told Percy, right? Asked Jason as he sat down next to Nico. Jason and Raina were over to study with him for a test next week. Glowering, Nico buried his face deeper in his history book. While things between Raina and Nico had not worked out due to acute gayness on Nico's part and a heavy case of decidedly being female on Raina's part, Raina and Jason had pretty soon gotten together. They were actually rather cute, in Nico's opinion. "It's Percy," muttered Nico with a glare. "That's super not an answer," pointed Jason out, throwing a rubber at Nico's head. "He's my oldest friend," pointed Nico out. "I'm your oldest friend," protested Jason with a pout. "You're my oldest puppy," grunted Nico and rolled his eyes. "We kinda only really became friends after Percy joined us. You just always trailed after me because our sisters were friends and our moms babysat for each other. And that's completely beside the point anyway. It's Percy. I can't risk losing him. What if he thinks it's weird? I'm weird. That we can't be friends anymore because of this. That he'll grow uncomfortable about our sleepovers and all and—" "Nico," interrupted Raina gently but firmly. "It's Percy. Can everyone stop saying his name like it's the ultimate argument for everything?" asked Jason. Raina rolled her eyes and ignored her boyfriend, instead looking at Nico. "It's Percy and you know him. You know him better than anyone else. You know how much he cares about you. He'd never turn his back on you, especially not over such a thing. Even if he doesn't return your feelings." Small Bob meowed in agreement and started brushing his head against Nico's. Nico smiled faintly and caressed the kitten. He knew, kind of, that Raina was right. That Percy would never abandon him. But at the same time, Nico was petrified that something between them would change. "Yo. Neeks." Nico grunted, while Jason and Raina startled. Turning toward the window, they saw Percy hanging upside down in front of it, waving at them. Nico was used to it. Percy tended to sneak into Nico's room through the Dares apartment. They had been living at the building for 3 years now, a couple with 2 daughters, Rachel and Ella, who had lost nearly everything. They used to be filthy rich, but things had gone wrong. The parents were not exactly the nicest people around. Really stuck-up, cold people. Rachel was an artist at heart and had become friends with Percy real quick, and thanks to that, Ella and Percy's little brother Tyson had become friends. Tyson Jackson was a 7-year-old orphan that Sally and Paul had adopted half a year ago. Percy adored and loved his new little brother. He was proud and protective of Tyson. Nico was glad that Tyson and Hazel got along well too. Though Hazel was generally very popular, making friends. "Percy," nodded Nico. "The window? I thought that was my shtick. Asking your mom if I could come in. She said no," shrugged Percy. "Said you gotta study. And, see, clearly that means you should break in through the window," muttered Jason. Percy jumped in through the window. "You, up. You think that our moms saying no to anything has ever stopped us before? Like, it's kinda become our mantra. Our motto," shrugged Nico, fist bumping with Nico. "Our moms often say no to stuff due to one of us, mostly Percy, being grounded, or them thinking it's an awful idea. Which, granted, mostly related to us getting into troubles with pranks when we were younger. You got grounded last week for dumping pink glitter on Nancy," pointed Jason out. "I was younger last week than I am now," huffed Nico. Percy snickered as he lay down next to Nico, so close that Nico could feel the heat radiating off his body. A blush rose to Nico's cheeks. Oh, he was so pathetically in love with Percy Jackson. "So, did you just seek out Nico because you're bored, or did you want something?" asked Raina. Oh. Yeah. Right. I have a date with Rachel this Friday and I have no idea what to do with her. So I figured maybe Nico could help me?" asked Percy hopefully. A date. With Rachel, muttered Nico, something twisting in his gut. "You, up. She asked me out, grinned Percy sheepishly. Told me she's been flirting with me for 3 months now, but I'm oblivious and helpless, so she had to spill it out for me. That's great, Percy, grunted Nico, gritting his teeth. So, help me. Brainstorm with me, prompted Percy. /2011 / I don't want you to go, big brother, pouted Tyson, hazel eyes large and sad. Percy sighed and put the box he was packing down so he could go and sit next to his brother. Tyson was 9 years old and he couldn't adore Percy more. Smiling, Percy looked up at his brother. I know, whispered Percy. But I'm going to college. So I can study and become a teacher. But why can't you study here? Complained Tyson, lower lip quivering. Because I got a scholarship for my swimming. In San Francisco, pointed Percy out, small, sad smile on his lips. I would prefer to stay here with you and Mom and Dad and everyone else too, but this is really very important to me. And I won't be gone for good either. I'll come visit and we can talk lots, right? And you'll have to keep Mom and Dad company while I'm gone. Tyson threw himself at Percy, hugging him really tight. I'll miss you lots, big brother. Everyone's going to miss you, Percy, pointed Paul out as he entered the bedroom. He grabbed one of the labeled boxes to carry it down to the car. Percy bit his lips. He was going to drive down to San Francisco in the morning, together with Rachel and Annabeth. Annabeth was going to some fancy law school, while Rachel had found an arts program for herself. Even though the relationship between Percy and Rachel had only been brief, their friendship definitely grew stronger and Percy was glad that he got to stay with his girls. Come on, Ty. Help us get Percy's things to the car, prompted Sally gently. And then you could go and see if Leo is at home. I think that Frank and Hazel wanted to visit him today. Tyson nodded and grabbed the lamp Percy wanted to take with him. A confused frown marred Percy's features as he watched his mom, stepdad and brother leave the room. Though when he turned around, he spotted Nico standing in front of the window. Percy's heart twisted. Aside from his family, Nico was the one he was going to miss the most. He bit his lips as he went to open the window to allow Nico to climb into the apartment. I asked your mom if you were home and could help me pack, but she said no, grinned Percy. Yeah. I was, started Nico before he turned away a bit. I didn't want to see you. What? Asked Percy, his face falling at that. Nico glared as he looked up. I didn't want to see you just to say goodbye. Oh, nodded Percy and sat down with a sigh. I don't want to say goodbye to you either. Here, grunted Nico with a glare, shoving something into Percy's arms. Percy blinked before laughing loudly. It was the stuffed Pegasus. The one Nico used to carry around all the time when he was little. Oh, Percy had been super envious of that as a child. What am I supposed to do with Pegasus? Asked Percy amused, hugging the toy. Take him with you. So you don't forget me, grumbled Nico. I know you always wanted it. Half the time you were over for sleepovers was probably because you wanted to cuddle him. Ah. Finally, after 12 years, my long con pays off and you are mine, Pegasus, exclaimed Percy delighted before doing his best manic villain laughter. Nico huffed and threw a pillow at him. I hate that you're leaving. Percy sobered up and averted his eyes, looking at the stuffed toy. Yeah. I'm kinda scared of leaving, you know. I mean, I'll have Annabeth and Rachel, sorta. But they're going to different colleges and won't just be close. No one's just going to be right across the hall for me to come over when I'm scared or lonely or confused. Can't you just come with me? I would, chuckled Nico dryly. But my mom said no. She says I have to finish high school. That's boring, stated Percy with a frown. Quit school and become a stay-at-home Nico. And what does a stay-at-home Nico do? Asked Nico fondly. Both boys had seen on their bed together, shoulders touching. Well, a stay-at-home Nico is just there. So I won't be alone. Cook for me, because the Nico I have makes the best pasta ever. Comfort me when I have a nightmare. Help me study when I'm struggling. Just be there. Are you? Asked Nico, surprised as he heard Percy's voice crack. When they turned to look at each other, there were tears shimmering in Percy's eyes. I'm really afraid, Nico. I've never been alone. I always had my mom and you and my friends. Rachel and Annie are both going to colleges nearly an hour drive away from me. I'll be alone at that college. And I won't just be able to sneak into your room and have you tell me that it'll get better. Nico pulled Percy into a tight hug, burying his face in Percy's neck. And here he had thought he was the only one afraid. Percy clung onto him, sobbing softly, getting it out of his system after having bottled it up for so long. Nico just held him quietly, caressing his back. It'll be all right, Percy, whispered Nico gently. You've always attracted people. Give it a little time and you'll have people flocking toward you. You'll make a ton of friends and find some amazing girlfriend, and in no time, you won't even think back on us back here. That's not true, mumbled Percy defensively. I could never forget you, promise? Asked Nico softly, hiding his smile in Percy's neck. Nico, you don't get it. Aside from my family, you're the most important person in my life. I don't want to lose you just because I'm moving away, whispered Percy, clinging on to Nico tighter. You'll never lose me, promised Nico, holding on just as tightly. Percy, as long as you want me in your life, I'll be there. I love you, I'll always love you. I'll always be there for you. I love you too, whispered Percy with a smile. Started Nico, gulping hard and pushing Percy off slowly. I don't mean like a friend. Percy blinked at him in confused, wrinkling his nose. So, like a brother? Like a boyfriend, offered Nico and closed his eyes, taking a deep breath. I've been in love with you for years now. But I was always afraid it'd make things awkward, but I don't want to see you go without getting this off my chest. I'm in love with you. Yeah. I love you too, nodded Percy, cheeks stark red. What? Asked Nico slowly, blinking. I dunno. I thought you. I mean, you weren't even ready to tell me you were gay, so I didn't wanna push, shrugged Percy, rubbing his neck. But yeah. I kinda love you too. Since when? Asked Nico softly, looking at Percy stunned. It's kinda why my relationship with Rachel fell apart, offered Percy. Because you realized you were gay? Asked Nico with a frown. No. I'm totally into girls too. But I was talking so much with you and spending so much time with you that Rachel in the end suggested that I should just date you instead, mumbled Percy and blushed. And that kinda made me realize I'm kinda in love with you. We're both idiots, nodded Nico, staring at Percy. We could have been dating for over a year. And now that you're moving to the other end of the US. Biting his lips, Percy turned to look into Nico's eyes. I mean, I get that now that I'll move away, you'd want to get it out of your system. Tell me you love me so you can move on. Get together with a cute guy in your class or something. I totally get that. I know that one cheerleader is into you. The blonde one. He keeps staring at you. What? Grunted Nico, ridiculed. Seriously? I finally get to hear that you love me back and now I'll move on? Are you an actual idiot? I knew Sally dropped you too often on your head. Percy sputtered and shoved Nico. Asswipe. I can have you. I'm not gonna settle for some rebound, huffed Nico. I can do long distance. You're gonna come visit, right? I can come visit. We can FaceTime and text and we can do this. You'd really want your first relationship to be a long distance with me? Instead of getting the real high school boyfriend experience? Asked Percy, unsure. I want my first relationship to be with you, grunted Nico firmly, grasping Percy's hands. Okay. We can. "Do that," nodded Percy and leaned in. "So. Can I kiss you?" "Oh gods, yes please," nodded Nico eagerly, also leaning in. They kissed, slow and deep, arms winding around each other. By the end of it, Percy was nearly sitting on Nico's lap, deciding that this spot was really comfortable. They only parted because there was giggling behind them. When they turned, it were Tyson, Hazel, Leo, and Frank. The four kids were peeking around the door frame, Tyson and Hazel giggling at their big brothers. Frank stared eyed at them while Leo just ran over to them and hugged Percy. "I don't want you to go. If you're not kissy with Nico, does that mean you don't go?" asked Leo. The 11-year-old was still as adorable as he had been as a little boy. Tyson, Hazel and Frank also shuffled in, all looking at Percy with the large, sad puppy eyes. This was going to kill Percy. "It means that I'll go and miss home even more," chuckled Percy, hugging Leo. "And I'll miss you too. Be good to your mom and try not to help too much in the shop, yeah?" Leo wiggled his nose with a pout. He's been helping in the car shop since he could hold a wrench, but sometimes that ended in a fire, somehow. It was a great headache for Esperanza, really. "Okay. But you'll come visit again, right?" asked Leo hopeful. "Of course," promised Percy, ruffling Leo's hair. "And Hazel, you gotta watch out for Nico, yeah?" "Always," huffed Hazel, puffing her chest out. "Bea says Nico needs a lot of watching out for." "He does," confirmed Percy teasingly. "Hey," grunted Nico, shoving Percy. "You know, I think I changed my mind about dating you." "Liar, liar, pants on fire," exclaimed Percy with a giggle. "Oh God, please tell me Leo didn't set our apartment on fire," called Paul out from the next room. Percy, Nico, Frank, Hazel, Tyson and Leo started laughing at that. Percy grinned as he put the last of the 3 boxes he had taken with him into his new home. His dorm room. He had a roommate, apparently, though the guy wasn't home right now. As soon as the box hit the ground, Percy threw himself onto his new bed and got his phone out. "Percy? Did you get there safely?" asked Nico instantly as soon as the video call connected. "EP. No worries. The trip was exhausting, because Rachel and Annabeth kept bickering." "Oh, please. Not the entire time," argued Annabeth from the bathroom. "Only 2/3 of the time," huffed Rachel where she was sitting down on a box. "Why are you two even here? You have your own colleges to get to," argued Percy. "We have to make sure you'll be safe here," pointed Annabeth out. "The bathroom is nice." "Annabeth had to pee," replied Rachel and rolled her eyes. Annabeth glared. "We've been on the road so long." "Yes, I had to pee, I start feeling bad for San Francisco," drawled Nico dryly. "Oh, you shut up," Mr. Only tells Percy about his feelings when Percy literally moves to the other end of the states, countered Rachel with a snort. "Like, seriously. You're ridiculous." "Nico, please remove those two from the room," requested Nico irritated. "Yeah, I kinda did have enough of them during our little road trip," agreed Percy. "Bye, girls. Whatever. See you later, Jackson," called Annabeth out. "Get going, Red. Have fun with your phone sex," chimed Rachel teasingly. Percy snorted and collapsed back onto his bed, staring at his boyfriend on his phone. "The room's pretty okay, I guess. I mean, it's nothing compared to home, but yeah, I'll be fine." "I know you will, Perce," chuckled Nico softly. "I'll visit you as soon as possible, okay?" "Okay." "Love you," whispered Percy, biting his lip. "Love you too," replied Nico. "Gotta go to school now. Have fun." Percy sighed as the call disconnected. Stretching his arms out, he stared at the ceiling. It was quiet. Percy wasn't used to quiet. Tyson would play loudly in the next room. His mom would sometimes sing while cooking, or laughing and talking to Paul. Paul prepared his class for the next day, practicing while pacing in the living room sometimes. Nico knocking on his window and coming in. Tyson's friends being over, being loud and coming into Percy's room to play with them too. Mrs. O'Leary whining and barking when she wanted something. Sometimes, he could hear Esperanza cussing in Spanish through the wall when she accidentally hit her thumb when working with a hammer or something. The neighbors gossiping in the backyard, when Percy left his window open. Percy missed his home. He missed everyone. Closing his eyes, he took a deep breath. Suddenly, the door opened and then there was cussing. Holy shit, stop undressing, Tav. I got a roommate. Totally forgot about that. Shit. The sound of a zipper being pulled up. Percy blinked and looked up. There were two ridiculously tall, blonde guys. One was athletic, the other lanky. The lanky one glared at him viciously, like it was Percy's fault he wasn't getting laid right now. Percy attempted a smile. Hi. I'm Percy Jackson. The new kid, greeted Percy lamely. I'm Luke Castellan. That's my boyfriend Octavian, introduced the athletic blonde. You already got a tour of campus? Because if not, I can show you around. Lucas, hissed Octavian annoyed. We can't fuck anyway because I now have a roommate, chuckled Luke. So I might as well give the new kid a tour of campus so he knows where to find what. That's really nice of you. Thanks, grinned Percy and sat up slowly. Just, to get that out of the way first, my boyfriend will be over a lot. So, if you happen to have anything against gays and gay PDA, say it now, prompted Luke. I have a boyfriend too, exclaimed Percy excitedly, getting his phone out and showing Luke his lock screen. His name's Nico and we got together 3 days ago. Just before I left for college. It'll be hard, being in a long-distance relationship, but we can totally manage. Luke grinned as he looked at the lock screen picture of Percy with a curly-haired, dark-eyed boy, both of them smiling into the camera. Tav, it's decided. I'll adopt him. He's adorable. Octavian heaved a long-suffering sigh at that, like it wasn't the first time this had been said. Mom. I missed you so much, exclaimed Percy, hugging his mom tightly. Sally smiled as she returned the hug. It was Christmas, which meant Percy returned home for the break. He laughed as Tyson hugged him tightly from behind. Paul joined in too, wrapping his arms around them both. Percy tried not cracking up as he finally got his family again. Mom, can we keep him this time? Asked Tyson hopefully. I second that idea. Percy gasped at that voice. Paul, Sally and Tyson let go of Percy, the adults smiling knowingly. When Percy turned around, there was Nico, his Nico, standing there. Nico. But I called and asked if you would come to pick me up and your mom said no. That you had to do something more important, exclaimed Percy. Like anything's more important than you, huffed Nico and hugged his boyfriend. I missed you so much, amore. I had the day you returned marked down in the calendar since the day you left. So Mama just messed it up and thought the giant red marking was for something else because it's been there so long. Mom laughed at that and sent me off. I missed you so much, grunted Percy, punctuating every word with a kiss. Love you. Missed you, mumbled Nico against Percy's lips. Ugh. This is gross, Mom, complained Tyson and wiggled his nose. Also, tell Nico he can't steal my big brother this break. I missed him too. I promise Nico won't steal me for the whole time, chuckled Percy. Yeah. Gotta spend time with Bianca too, sighed Nico. I kind of missed her too. Percy hummed in understanding and pulled his boyfriend into another kiss. Let's go home. Wonderful plan, agreed Sally. /2012 /. Percy heaved a sigh where he was laying on his bed, hugging Pegasus tightly. It had been easy to be in a long-distance relationship for the first 3 months. And it helped that Percy had indeed made new friends fast. But then Christmas had happened and by now he just missed his Nico so much more. He missed his family too, but with Nico it was different. They had barely kissed 6 times and then Percy had to move away, just to return to get more Nico and then he had to leave again. Hey, Mopey McMope, get up and come with me, ordered Luke as he looked at Percy. because the heavy sighing and excessive Pegasus cuddling is really pathetic. Where are we going? Mumbled Percy as he put Pegasus down. Out. Silena has been taking this sushi course and she tried all the things out, and since Clarice is not that much of a fan of sushi, they invited us along, ordered Luke. A picnic. Come on. Percy grinned faintly and got up. Clarice and Silena were Luke's friends, well, by now also Percy's. Silena was a very kind and sweet person, training to become a cook. Her roommate Clarice was actually studying the same as Percy, to become a PE teacher, but she was ahead 2 semesters. Then there were their respective boyfriends, Chris and Charles. Charles wanted to open up his own car shop one day, while Chris was studying politics. Percy, Luke. So nice of you to join us. I made far too much, grinned Silena as they reached them. Silena, Clarice, Chris and Charles all sat on a large blanket under a tree, with a true sushi buffet spread out in front of them. Percy's stomach rumbled at the mere sight. Licking his lips, he sat down between the girls, while Luke took a seat between the guys. Been studying or moping? Asked Chris curiously. Moping, snorted Luke and shook his head. Missing his boyfriend a lot. Understandable, sighed Silena softly. Young love, to be separated like that. Oh, he needs to man up, grunted Clarice and rolled her eyes. You're all awful people, mumbled Percy as he dug in. But the sushi is great. When was the last time you spoke to Nico? Asked Charles amused. Normally, you just call him when you miss him this badly. They're going on a family vacation. It's school break, mumbled Percy with a pout. Said he won't be available all day. Packing, driving to the airport, the flight, getting to the hotel. He promised he'd call as soon as they are settled in, but, how much longer? Asked Silena sympathetically. When did he say he'd call? In like the earliest 2 hours, grumbled Percy before he sighed. I know I'm pathetic, you don't have to say it, Clarice. I know. Clarice huffed. At least you see you have a problem. Yes. My problem is that my boyfriend lives way too far away, sighed Percy. It'll be semester break soon and you'll go home then, right? Offered Chris. 2 more months, grumbled Percy with a glower. You've been home for Christmas break. It's not been that long, pointed Luke out. That's what made it worse, countered Percy. Spending a week at home, celebrating Christmas with my family and getting to cuddle with Nico every single day, kissing him every single day. That just makes me miss him even more now. It's unfair. Pathetic, sighed Clarice and shook her head. Chris elbowed his girlfriend. You would miss me too. I'd hope. I suppose. But I wouldn't be this pathetic about it, muttered Clarice flustered. I think it's admirable. That even though you'd be apart now, you still decided to get together on your last day of being home, sighed Silena with a dreamy look. Beautiful romance. Percy grumbled and allowed his friends to continue either making fun of him or praising him for being such a romantic, until all the sushi was gone. It really did help to spend time with his friends. It was a good distraction from missing Nico. He smiled and hugged Silena tightly before parting ways with them and returning to the dorm room with Luke. Feel any better, Percy? Asked Luke amused, nudging him. Yes. No, grumbled Percy and groaned, leaning heavily against Luke. We don't see each other for a month and you're already all over another guy. Percy frowned and paused, looking at the boy in front of their dorm room. Nico. Nico? Nico. Nico got up and grinned, just to be jumped by Percy the next moment, being showered with kisses by his college boyfriend. Grin growing, Nico wrapped his arms around Percy. Hey, Percy, whispered Nico with a smile, kissing Percy properly. Love you. So much. What are you doing here? Asked Percy stunned, clinging onto Nico. Told you. Family vacation, shrugged Nico. And while my moms and Hazel went to New Orleans together, I said I would rather go to San Francisco. And my moms didn't say no. Percy gasped softly. Wait. Wait, does this mean you'll stay an entire week? Mom's made me promise not to distract you too much from your studies, but yes, confirmed Nico with a mischievous grin. Just you, going to class, me checking out San Francisco, then us doing boyfriend stuff. Dates. Cuddling. A lot of kissing. Yeah? Dates, cuddling and a lot of kissing. Aren't you too endearing? Snickered Luke amused. Right. Nico, Luke. Luke, Nico, introduced Percy. And yes, we're very endearing. Thanks for watching out for my Percy while I can't, nodded Nico. He tends to get in trouble. He's a good kid, grinned Luke. Hey. Stop talking like I'm not there, huffed Percy offended. Nico. You're required to curl together on my bed with me for the next 5 hours, at least. Okay, nodded Nico eagerly. Can do that. Nico grinned and nosed Percy's neck while Luke laughed. It was hard. Nico missed Percy so much. Not just because they were now finally boyfriends, but because Percy had always been his closest friend. Raina and Jason did their best to be there for him, but it just wasn't the same. Had never been the same. They weren't Percy. Nico smiled when he spotted Pegasus on Percy's bed. Adorable dork, muttered Nico, kissing Percy's temple. Shut up and cuddle me, grumbled Percy flustered. Seconds later and the two of them were indeed cuddled up to each other, curled together. Percy sighed contently as he felt his boyfriend's arms around him and Nico buried his nose in Percy's hair. So, Jason is quarterback now, started Nico casually. And Raina actually already started writing college applications. For them both, because she wants to make sure they stay together. Cute, grinned Percy faintly, kissing Nico's cheek. How are the kids? Piper joined the cheerleaders. She's super proud of it, grinned Nico. Jason hates it. He's afraid his baby sister will grow up and one day start attracting potential boyfriends. Piper's 10, grunted Percy and rolled his eyes. Yeah. We know. But her training to become a cheerleader now makes Jason frightened for how things are going to be once she enters high school, snickered Nico. She and Leo are inseparable by now, you know. The 6 of them are actually planning their high school days together. Hazel, Tyson, Ella, Piper, Leo, and Frank. It's too cute. Percy hummed and closed his eyes with a smile. He loved listening to his boyfriend's voice, loved hearing how everyone at home was doing. It was so odd, so disconnecting, not to live home anymore. To have them all move on with their lives together while he was here. What? What about you? Asked Percy and cleared his throat. College? I want to go to law school. But, I was thinking LA, admitted Nico. I know you're here in San Francisco and I know LA is close, but it's not. It's not San Francisco and... Nico? Shut up, whispered Percy and kissed him. I will not let our relationship dictate your life. You go and take your path. We can do this. If we manage to do this long-distance relationship until your graduation, then damn yes we can do it with you living in LA. It's closer. We could see each other more often then. We can do this, Nico. We totally can. I need you in my life. /2013 / You're 12. You can't go on a date, sputtered Nico with a glare. Big brother, you've been in love with Percy since you were 12. Do not undermine my feelings for Frank, warned Hazel seriously. I am so going on this date. Frank shuffled and blushed where Nico was glaring at him. I know. But I'm me and you're my baby sister. And my baby sister can't possibly already be going on dates. Nico. Nico, stop harassing your sister, chided Marie. She looks pretty and has a date. They're going out for ice cream, just let them go, chuckled Maria in agreement with her wife. And don't you have to get ready for prom anyway? Asked Marie with a frown. What's the point? Grunted Nico and rolled his eyes. I have so many things to sort out before I move out for college. Why would I waste my time going on a stupid dance, just to watch Jason and Raina make heart eyes at each other? Nico, prompted Maria sternly. Ask me if you can go on your prom. Why would I ask your permission to go? I don't even want to, muttered Nico. You're so silly sometimes, big brother, sighed Hazel and rolled her eyes. You wouldn't, but Mom would totally say yes, you know? Nico frowned at his sister and her weird phrasing, then he turned to frown at his mothers and their broad grins. He wouldn't, but his mom said yes. But that was like the reverse of their little. Wait, Percy's in San Francisco, stated Nico unsure. At college. Why would you? Marie heaved a sigh and shook her head. We promised not to spoil the surprise, but if you don't go to prom, then there won't even be a surprise. So I suppose we have to spoil it. You mean Percy is here? My Percy is here? For my prom? Asked Nico stunned. He wanted to surprise you, considering the two of you were too dense to get together in time to go to his prom together. He really wanted to go with you to yours, confirmed Maria. Fuck. I have to get changed, exclaimed Nico wide-eyed. Language, young man, chided Maria amused. Nico ran off to his room to get changed, just to realize he didn't even have a tux. But when he opened his closet, he saw that there was one already. He grinned at just how awesome his moms were before he went to the bathroom to get showered and ready. He couldn't believe how stupidly adorable his boyfriend was. Coming here, just for prom. Nico was way too in love. It took him 2 hours to get ready, then he called Jason and Raina to inform them he changed his mind. That he wanted to spend that one day of partying with them to celebrate their high school time together. Even if his parents hadn't given away the surprise, Jason would have. Jason kept grinning like the biggest idiot the entire drive to school, and Nico was pretty sure that Jason opened his mouth to spoil the surprise at about 3 different occasions, only to be elbowed by Raina. When the car stopped in front of the school, someone opened the door for Nico. He stared, genuinely surprised, as he saw Percy in a tux. Percy in a tux was mighty fine. Definitely Nico's new third favorite outfit on Percy. Number 1, still, Percy in swim shorts or boxers, while number 2 by now was Percy in Nico's clothes. Nico blinked, really slowly, even as Percy offered him a hand. Hello. Will you be my date to prom? Asked Percy with a grin. I wouldn't, but my mom's said yes, chuckled Nico amused. What? Asked Percy, now confused. Nico allowed Percy to help him out of the car and kiss him. I didn't want to come to prom, but moms said that I really should come. Guess they were right. Percy hissed his lip with a small grin. Let's go and dance, Mr. D'Angelo. Always, Mr. Jackson, grinned Nico and linked fingers with Percy. You two are absolutely adorable, laughed Jason. Now come. Dance. Celebrate that we all finally managed to finish high school. Graduation is a done deal. College is next. Raina chuckled as she took Jason's hand and followed Nico and Percy inside. /2015 / Why aren't you moving back home, brother? Complained Tyson with a pout. Percy bit his lips and looked out of the window. His family had come to his graduation and then to help him pack and move to LA. He had a job already, had applied early on. He was going to become a teacher, in Los Angeles. Sharing an apartment with his boyfriend. Finally, after 5 long years of long-distance relationship, they would get to see each other every single day. Stop making your brother feel guilty, Ty, chided Sally. Would you want to leave Ella behind? Tyson flushed the brightest red possible at that, making Percy grin. He still had a hard time believing that his baby brother was 13 years old and having his first crush. Time passed too fast. Paul grunted in amusement as he kept driving. They were nearly there, nearly at the apartment Percy and Nico were going to share. They had picked it out months ago. Nico had already moved in and got everything ready for Percy and him together. Percy felt awful for leaving his boyfriend to do all the renovating and moving in on his own, but Nico had assured him that he'd be fine and that he wanted for Percy to concentrate on graduation. Besides, Nico had made friends over the past 2 years of college, Will and Lou and Cecil. It was good, Percy was glad that Nico had made friends. And so far, Nico had even managed to stay in contact with Jason and Raina, who by now were engaged. Sometimes, it felt odd to look at the people he had grown up with and see them move on. "You're here," was called out as soon as the car parked in front of the apartment building. Percy barely got out of the car before he got tackled against said car by an overly enthusiastic Nico. He latched onto Percy, kissing him fiercely and deeply. Percy smiled, wrapping his arms around Nico's shoulders and pulling him closer. 5 years. 5 years old long distance, and now finally, their life together would start. Sally and Paul were chuckling amused as they started unloading. "I'm so sorry I missed your graduation," whispered Nico against Percy's lips. "You got college too. Can't just skip because of me," huffed Percy. "But not anymore. We're not gonna miss anything anymore. We're going to be together from now on. You and me. You and me," whispered Nico, pleased. "I like the sound of that." /2017 / The past 2 years had been the happiest of Nico's life. It was hard sometimes. They weren't used to sitting on each other 24/7. Sometimes, Percy would work out while Nico had to study, and it was annoying and distracting. Other times, Nico would annoy Percy with his habits while Percy had to work on the class schedule for the next day. It happened that Nico was so exhausted from school that he'd just collapse face first, and it had happened that Percy was so exhausted from work that he'd just collapse face first. Occasionally, the two would fight. Sometimes over stupid, minor stuff, other times over more serious issues. But they always made up, and they promised to talk to each other and never go to bed with anger in their stomachs. "I can't believe that you got everyone here," muttered Percy, embarrassed. He was buried in his mother's arms. Tyson stood next to them, holding hands with his girlfriend Ella. It had taken him some time, but at 15, Tyson gathered the courage to ask her out. Ella of course hadn't come alone, she had come with her big sister Rachel, who by now was a small-time artist in New York, having moved back home after graduation. "Percy, when I suggested for us to come home and celebrate your 25th birthday with our family, I meant everyone. And since everyone still has their parents and family here, you're not the only reason for them to come home. It's time to be together again," grinned Nico. "I love that you're all home again," stated Leo with a broad smile. He was sitting between Hazel and Frank. A development Percy would have so not seen coming. That the three of them would be in a poly relationship at one point. Percy grinned and came to hug Leo. The little firebug had always been one of his favorites. Even all three Graces were here. Thalia, who had moved on to work at an archery summer camp with Bianca. Piper was grinning broadly where she sat next to her big sister and kept poking fun at her brother, Jason still being as enamored with Raina as they used to as teenagers. "We made the largest, bluest cake, just for you, Bambino," declared Maria. She, Marie and Esperanza carried in a giant cake with 25 candles on it out. The birthday party had gathered together on the rooftop together, for space alone. This felt good. 6 years. This was the first time they all were together again like this in 6 years. Everyone started singing for Percy while he blew out the candles. It felt good to be home like this. "Okay, this is the best present you could have gotten me, Nico," whispered Percy. He kissed Nico softly, prompting their moms to coo and Tyson and Hazel to giggle at them. Jason took pictures, claiming he was going to miss them way too much when leaving again, while Raina rolled her eyes at him and Thalia shoved him from behind. Nico cleared his throat. "That wasn't actually the gift," drawled Nico and stuck his hand into his pocket. "Neeks, no," huffed Percy, amused. "This is really enough. I don't need more gifts." "Percy, shut up," ordered Nico and took a deep breath. "I've been in love with you for 10 years now. I love you. I love you so much, Percy. When you moved away for college 6 years ago, I thought that I would never see you again. And sometimes, I still can't believe that I found the courage to tell you that I love you. I still can't believe that we managed. The long distance, while you were at college. Every day that I get to come home to you, that I get to kiss you and eat dinner with you and fall asleep curled together on our bed with you, is a blessing. Nico. Nico, what's this? Started Percy. Percy, shut up, chorused literally everyone around them. Percy blushed when he noticed that various phones were aimed at him and Nico. His heart was pumping hard as Nico slowly started to get down on one knee. Percy bit his lips really hard. I've loved you for 10 years and having you now, living with you now, is the happiest I have ever been. I never want to miss you. I want to graduate college, with you at my side, start at a law firm and become a big shot lawyer and know you have my back. I want to go to every single competition that you coached and cheer your kids on. I want to support you through every step of the way. I want for you and me to be together and support each other for the rest of our lives, continued Nico and took a deep breath as he hit the concrete with one knee. Will you do me the honors of becoming Mr. Percy Jackson D'Angelo? Percy bit his lips even harder, looking at Nico. I mean, I would, but my mom said no. How dare you, exclaimed Sally. Oh, you are not going to drag me into this. I would never. Sally, dear, interrupted Maria amused. I think your son is trying to be cute. Percy, groaned Nico, leaning forward to rest his forehead against Percy's leg. Please be serious. Will you or won't you marry me? Because I can totally not. Nico, yes, of course am I going to marry you, you dork, grunted Percy amused. But I think I totally deserve to make a little fun of you if you put me on the spot like this. Nico glared as he put the ring on Percy's finger. In my defense, I would have never put you on the spot like this if I hadn't been 300% sure you'd say yes. Very convinced of himself, grunted Piper teasingly. Yee, snorted Jason and high-fived his baby sister. I'm not, defended Nico with the faintest blush. I just found an engagement ring in Percy's sock drawer when I did laundry last month, so. Yeah. You found that? I thought I hid it well enough, grumbled Percy and blushed. And I wanted to wait until your graduation and wanted to propose to you then. Well, drawled Nico and got a second box out of his pocket. How about now? Percy snorted as he accepted the engagement ring he had bought for Nico 3 months ago. While Nico got up from the ground, Percy got down on one knee and popped the lid of the box. You were my first friend, started Percy, voice soft as he looked up at Nico. I was a broken, little boy who was afraid of his own home because there was a monster inside. And you came, like my hero, and took me home with you. Played with me, even just for a few hours. I know that your mom helped us get rid of my stepfather. You helped me. You were there for me. Always. Through years and years of nightmares and me trying to deal with the aftermath of the abuse, you were always there for me. You were my rock. My hero. The one I could always lean on. When I went to college, I was afraid. I was so afraid to be alone, but you never left me. Often, I thought you might be better off just having a high school boyfriend who actually lived close by. But you and me, we made it work. Whenever I felt stupid or failed and had a setback, you were always having my back. You always made me feel strong and clever. You came, when I needed you the most. What you said. I want that too. For you and me, to be there for each other. Support each other. I want to come home to you every night, wake up in your arms every morning. So, Nicolo Antonio D'Angelo, will you do me the honors of becoming my husband? I totally would, but my mom said no, countered Nico dryly. Okay, Sally is right, this is not funny, boys, chided Maria with a glare. Marie laughed and rested a hand on her wife's shoulder. Those boys have awful humor. Nico grinned while his fiancée put the ring on his finger and then, as they finally stood eye to eye again, they wrapped their arms around each other and pulled each other into a slow, soft kiss. Percy smiled into their kiss as he linked his hands behind Nico's back, fingers playing with the ring now adoring his hand. An engagement ring. The smile on his lips grew at that. 2018 /. Nico definitely had a new favorite outfit for Percy as he looked at his soon-to-be husband in his white tux, with blue flowers braided into his hair for decoration, matching his blue shirt. Nico was wearing a black tux and had red flowers in his hair, to match his red shirt. That was what they got for letting Silena Beauregard plan their wedding. Though, they did both look amazing. Bianca, Hazel and Raina were groomsmaids, while Jason and Tyson acted as the respective best men for Nico and Percy. It was a beautiful ceremony and Nico had to admit that Silena had come up with the perfect wedding for them. He smiled as he took Percy's hands. "Will you, Percy Jackson, take Nico D'Angelo to be your lawfully wedded husband?" "I would, but," started Percy with a cheeky smirk. "Percy, no," chorused Sally, Maria and Marie seriously, making everyone else laugh. "Percy, yes," grinned Nico fondly, eyes sparkling. Percy bit his lips hard as his grin grew more and more. "I would, but my mom said no." And do you, Nico D'Angelo, take Percy Jackson to be your lawfully wedded husband? "I would, but my mom said no," grinned Nico. "I'm not sure, but I think you may kiss the groom now." And with that, Nico and Percy kissed. The end.